Make the bad man stop.
Oh, as we always say, this bad man will never stop. This is Tim Stewart, Giant Straight Talk, powered by Online Big Blue LLC. We're hopefully going to get a defensive coordinator sometime in the near future. The future is now, Joe Shane. Go find somebody. And I don't want to keep getting into this. Well, first of all, today's video is going to be, we're going to break down 3 potential later round quarterbacks the Giants could have some interest in. We're going to look at their strengths. We're going to look at their weaknesses. That's going to be, of course, it's going to be Spencer Rattler, Joe Milton, and Sam Hartman. But the whole thing with the defensive coordinator situation, I've said this before. I've said it a million times. People keep asking me on the stream, why? Why is this taking so long? Because we've said it a million times. You know, Brian.
And you will respect my authority.
Dable needs to have complete control, needs to have complete authority. He doesn't want anyone coming in here who's going to question that authority. He wants a young guy. And I think there's a little bit of insecurity with him in reference to that, which is fine. And I said this before, and I said it on the stream on Sunday. If you want to be insecure, if you want to bring in your own guys, you want to bring in guys with less experience so you can groom them and everything else, that's great. But you got to win. You do that, you need to win in the process. Because you are now in year 3, Shane and Dable, looking at you. You're now in year 3. And it's one of those things that you got to kind of figure it out. And you got to figure out what the hell is going on. Right now, the Giants sitting at 6.
You say I have a plethora of piñatas?
Have a plethora of ways they can go with this pick. And it's all going to break down about how those top 4 teams, really 5 teams, of course, but there's really 3 teams sitting up front that are probably going to take a quarterback to see how they pan out. And you figure that Caleb Williams, you figure Drake May and Jaden Daniels are probably going to be gone before they get over to the Giants at 6. So Lord knows which the situation the Giants are going to go to. I love it how a beat reporter came out and said, well, there's one elite quarterback the Giants aren't high on. You don't know shit. The Giants are protecting their draft board like a newborn baby. There is no information coming out. There is no leak coming out from that. If anything, there's more disinformation than anything else that's coming out of that. So to think that...
Gentlemen, what brings me to my next point. Don't smoke crack.
Just stop smoking crack. I want to go through some later round quarterbacks the Giants could have some interest in. And these are some guys that... you probably can get into round 3, 4, and 5, if maybe not even later. And some of these guys, I may even think a couple of them may be undrafted rookies. So I want to start with the venerable Sam Hartman, 6'1", 209 pounds out of Notre Dame. Sam I think personally, Sam made a mistake. I think he should have came out last year. I think that whole transferring, what was he over at he was out of the old Demon Deacons. Was that way? So, I mean, I think that whole transferring from Wake Forest to Notre Dame was a huge mistake. Like I said, he should have just came out. I still think he would have been a guy that would have been taken in the lower half of the first round in last year, or maybe even the early half of the second round. And now I think he could fall all the way down to 3 or 4. You're going to talk about, people are going to talk about his over 15,000 yards, passing, which makes it one of the most prolific passes in the history, which ranks him 5th all time against Case Keenum. What's his name? Was it Timmy Chang, Landry Jones, and was it Harwell? Of course, all those guys are massive stars in the NFL. He had championship aspirations with Notre Dame. And it just didn't go that way. It really didn't. It just kind of went the wrong way for him. You looked at some of his film again, while he was with while he was a Golden Doma, you kind of saw a regression in my mind. And maybe it's because the talent level went up from Wake Forest. But this is a guy that he's got. Does he have a great arm? No. Does he have an above average arm? I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to say it's average at best. But he does have something that I do like a lot, something that Spencer Rattler has. He's got this nice quick, crisp release. Not Dan Marino-esque, but he gets the ball out quickly. He's got a nice snap to the wrist. And he's got decent velocity when it comes to getting, in the short game. But like I said, when you get to those outside passes, there's gonna be a little bit. There's gonna be a little bit of an issue going on there. I think he's a good enough athlete. He has some mobility. I'm not gonna sit there and tell you he's Michael Vick, but he's not gonna be a slouch in the pocket. He can move around in reference to extending the play a little bit. Is he gonna be this guy that's gonna get you 700-800 yards? No, not at all. He's not. He's not going to be that type of guy. If you take a look going back more to Wake Forest, he has the ability to lead his receivers. He has the ability to throw his wide receivers open as long as he's got good footwork going on. I mean, he's a fifth-year starter, so he's the poise was there in college. He's a composed guy. When facing pressure, I don't see he's not gonna crumble. He's not going to just fall off the map. He's not afraid to take risks, which is always good. But one of the things I really like about him a lot is he's competitive. He's a tough guy. He's a tough guy. He you know what the problem is? I hate to say it. He's got some Baker Mayfield in him. And he's willing to hang out in that pocket. He's willing to take, to be battered a little bit. But then you look at it again, the arm strength to me just isn't there. I mean, I'm kind of being nice by saying that he has average arm strength. I'm kind of being nice, I think. I'm not going to say he's below average because I'd like to see what he does at the combine. And I like to see how well he has, the true velocity he has when he has no one's pressuring him. Because I want to see if the velocity is even there at that point in time. And the problem is when he's throwing downfield, he floats a lot. I said this about Dwayne Haskins, RIP. One of the reasons I didn't want the Giants draft him, I called Dwayne a lollipop thrower. And if you go back to Ohio State and you watched Dwayne's deep balls, there was this high arc, and I always said it looks like he's thrown over the top of a lollipop. And it's kind of the same thing. Hartman floats his passes a little bit, especially on the deep ball. Which if you do that, you get a good defensive back. He's going to be tracking that shit downfield. And while he has good field vision, in my mind, he does miss a lot of the field. He doesn't see a lot of the field, which is kind of concerning a little bit. It's kind of, again, it's a little Daniel Jones-esque. He doesn't see all the field. He's going to be a 25-year-old rookie. I love it because when Hendon Hooker, before he got hurt and he was in Heisman consideration, was coming out, everyone was telling me how old he was. Well, you got Joe Milton that's been in school since before Daniel Jones even came out, and you have Spencer Rattler being in school since 2019. So these three guys have been in school a little bit. They've been in school a little bit. I am also a little bit more concerned about his footwork. I don't think he has I don't think his mechanics are good enough to have some of the poor footwork that he does or exhibits at times. And I think that's going to cause a lot more of his issues as well. I mean, third round, fourth round, I think that's where he's going to be at. But like I said, what really bugs me about Sam Hartman is this, and I've said this before, Pat Shurmur was a genius when it came to Daniel Jones. He was a genius. And when people are like, well, one more year under the tutelage of Pat Shurmur, Daniel Jones would have been better in year two.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
No. Why? Shurmur was smart to understand he had a rookie quarterback, which he basically did is cut the field in half and give Jones basically an option and tell him to throw to spots. And the two options usually were to either throw the ball or run if nobody's open, or just throw it to a spot. That's what he did, and it worked. Now, the problem is this. One of the things I see about Sam Hartman is he kind of does the same thing. At certain amounts of time, he only sees half the field. I don't know if that's something they can coach up with that, but that, like I said, that's just something that you need to keep an eye on because Lord knows, if that's something that can be fixed. And it's an interesting perspective. Another player we want to talk about who has all the measurables. at 6'5", 235 pounds, the quarterback out of Tennessee. Of course, that's going to be Joe Milton. He went to Michigan, floundered at Michigan a little bit. And then after that, after he was going to be the starter in Michigan during the during the COVID season 2020, he started 5 of the 6 games. Now he got benched. I think he got benched in the Penn State game, which was like the 6th game of the season. I think I'm not sure. He started like a couple games in 2021, but that was due to injuries. And then Hooker came over and took the role, but then tore his ACL in 2022. I mean, I think Milton played well enough, but like I said, he came in to start the offense. He's really only got one truly full chance as a full-time starter, and he completed 229 passes, 64%, 2,813 yards, 20 touchdowns, and just 5 interceptions. Ran for almost 300 and scored an additional 7 on the run. Not going to talk about what Rattler and Milton did at the Pro Bowl Senior Bowl, because it doesn't matter. Because the week leading up to the game is what matters. I mean, this guy has the ability to make all the throws on Sunday. He's got that arm. He's got a cannon. Back in our day, we said he's got a cannon for an arm. He's got pure velocity, man. You want to talk about a kid to either fit it into a tight window? He could throw it through a window, go through the door, come out the other side of the barn. That's the kind of velocity this kid has. The good thing about his velocity is he's kind of slow to diagnose plays. And with his limited ability and limited football IQ at times, that velocity helps him make up for his slow processing skills in reference to seeing the play. Seeing the play open itself and the wide receiver open itself. It's just one of the things. I mean, that's just something he can do. He's a big kid. He's got the prototypical size you want for a quarterback. He's got that physicality that you look at and you're like, you know what, this kid is something. This kid has got it. This kid has got the presence. His accuracy to me is going to be more towards, again, I would say the short to mid range, because of the fact I think if you keep it to a short range game, you're going to limit his ability to have to read the field, and I think that's a little bit what they did at Tennessee. I mean, he's a tough kid, man. How many times did you watch him in Tennessee and watch him lower his shoulder and drive through somebody? I mean, that's just it. But then if you go back and watch Tennessee, this reminds me of Daniel Jones in 19 with Shermer. Tennessee's offense is kind of a one-read offense. And this is a kid that had problems running a one-read offense at times. One of the other issues that he has, since this is a one, and I don't fault him for this because it is a one-read offense, he stares down his wide receivers quite a bit. But then again, that's because he's in a one-read offense. He's got to move his eyes a little bit. He's got to try to see the whole field. He's got to get a better understanding. But like I said, one of the biggest issues that I have with him is just like if he was a computer, he would be a compact 286E, or he's an Apple IIe running DOS. I just don't see the immediate processing skills for this kid. And like I said, maybe his lack of field vision is because of the fact that they just had him be a one-read quarterback. I mean, that could be the situation as well. I mean, I really don't know. One of the things that bugs me also a little bit, he's Sam Hartman. You like I said, you say that he's depth in the pocket. He's a depth in the pocket. He's not going to get rattled in the pocket. Spencer Rattler's coming up too. He's not going to get rattled in the pocket. Hartman is. Milton has a tendency of taking off. Milton has a tendency of not allowing the play to development. Milton has more of the ability to scramble and get out of the way. I'm not saying he's seeing ghosts, but what I am saying is he's one of these kids that if it's a choice between running and staying, that sometimes he's going to be the guy doing the running. I personally think that Joe is probably going to go. Don't go, Joe. I personally think he should go anywhere between round 5 and 6. And I think that's going to be, I mean, like I said, I think those are where he's going to fall. Like I said, it's just his ability to read the field, man. His post-snap reads, I just don't see it. And at times he just has, it seems like he has no anticipation. And I don't think that, I mean, could it be he'll gain more experience and then he'll have a better understanding? But it's gonna be different if you're going from college to a pro style offense and think that you're gonna be able to compete at a higher level. I think that's kind of the issue. Last quarterback I want to talk about is going to be the Spencer Rattler, 6'1", around 218 pounds. Went over to Norman, Oklahoma. He went to the Sooners. He looked like at one point in time he was going to be that Heisman winner. He was on Netflix series QB1, and people say I never saw it, so I can't tell you, but people say it kind of came off like an asshole. Had some issues, got benched, had some academic issues as well. Used a transfer, went over to South Carolina. He reunited with, who was one of the assistants from Oklahoma, I think, became the head coach over in South Carolina. So he kind of went there. I mean, this is a guy in 2 years threw for over 6,000 yards, 37 touchdowns, 20 picks. If you want to use a word for him, Rattler is, and throughout his entire career, it's going to be inconsistent. He is inconsistent. But this is another guy that can make all the throws on Sunday. Sunday, Trachosaurus. He can make all the throws on Sunday. He can. He really can. He's a guy, again, he's got that flick of a wrist. That's one of the things I talked about in the stream yesterday. He's got this flick. He's got this, it's not Dan Marino, but it's just this flick that you see, and he can just get the ball out with giddy up and with limited throwing motion. As we talked about Tommy DeVito having this elongated throwing style, this kid can just chuck it with a flick of the wrist. This kid can drop it 50 yards on a flick of a wrist. And it is extremely impressive to me. And like I said, it's just that release, man. It's just that quick release. He's mechanically better than he was when he was up for Heisman consideration these last 2 years. So I think you got to look at that. I mean, he's accurate. He's accurate on the short passes again, and in the intermediate routes. All three of these guys are that way. The deep ball, for a guy with such a big arm, I'd like to see a little bit more accuracy. I'd like to see him lead his wide receivers a little bit. I'd like to see better ball placement, especially in reference to the deep pass itself. I mean, like I said, he's at times. The last 2 years more than the 2 years in Oklahoma, he's become a better decision maker in my mind. He really has. Is he great at it? Is he great at making decisions? No, but he checks down when he needs to, and he does. The last 2 years, I should say, he's shown the ability to not force the ball at times. Now, that being said, there are some moments where like I said, he is inconsistent. He's inconsistent with his footwork. He's inconsistent with his throwing motion. He's inconsistent with his reads. For a guy that has some speed, he doesn't have elite speed, but he does have some speed. I like to see him use that speed a little bit more. And sometimes he just picks the wrong play, and sometimes he tries to force throws into covered wide receivers. I mean, there are some plays that I watched that you looked at him and say, "Are you literally throwing this into double coverage?" And again, he's another guy that I don't think he sees the whole field, Spencer. I don't think he sees everything that is around him. And I think he's got to work on his field vision just like the rest of these guys do. Like I said, I would like to see him, throw with a little bit more anticipation. I'd like to see a little bit more consistency in reference to his, his decision making and his thought process behind his decision making. If you just look at the intangibles, he is a natural talent. He is. He's a gift. He's a guy with a gifted arm. He's got the NFL arm. But there's just so many things you kind of look at, and you still just say, okay, now I see why he's sitting. That he left Norman, Oklahoma, and he's over in. That I mean, I'm not trying to. I'm not. You know what? I'm not going to get into this. I'm not going to bash South Carolina. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to bash South Carolina. But there's a reason why he ended up in South Carolina, and I'm curious if he's really 250 pounds. I want to know if he's 6'1", really 250 pounds, or as like we've talked about that a million times, is that college measurements. But like I said, another thing that bothers me is his mechanics. We talked about it briefly before. I think he's very inconsistent with his mechanics, and he's not the type of passer that can have his mechanics break down while he's in the pocket. His footwork's not that good to have those type of issues. But like I said, man, you got to look at that release. You got to look at that release, man. He has got one of the quickest releases that I've seen. I love it because someone mentioned Brownie Nagel, the old Jet Atlanta Falcons quarterback. Brownie Nagel had a quick release too. I mean, he had like a little zip on the ball, but Spencer's got the same thing. But the problem is, can he find the receiver? Can he look at the field and find? These are all project guys. And like I said, if you're looking for your best,
losers always whine about their best. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen.
Out of the three, who's going to probably go home with the prom queen? I think Sam Hartman has the most upside immediately, but I think Spencer is going to have more ability. And again, Spencer's 24 years old. Another older quarterback has been in school forever. But I think he'll have the more NFL talent. And I think Joe is going to be like a 6th or 7th round pick. They're all going to be project guys, but there could be someone that the Giants bring in and try to develop if you're going to stick with Daniel Jones for a year. And as crazy as that is, and what I always, when I hear that, I just...
My professional opinion that now is the time to panic.
I got to panic if that's your solution, Joe. We're going to have a big stream on Tuesday to talk about all this. Wrap this up a little bit more. Hopefully you'll have a DC by then. And as always, this is Tim, this New York Giants Straight Talk, powered by Online Big Blue LLC. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to ring that bell because you want to know why. That'll be awesome.